everyone, welcome to Camille Was Here. I'm Camille, and today we're going to be talking about 15 of the most annoying things about flying. So, I travel a lot, and that involves flying, and there are some super annoying things about flying that I think that every one of us can relate to. So I'm going to share my 15 top things with you, and I want you to tell me if any of my top things are in your top things, or if I've missed anything, please add it in the comments and we can talk about it. So the first thing that I find super annoying about traveling is when I get in the plane and before we've even lifted off, the person sitting in front of me is reclining back. It could be a daytime flight, like there's no need to sleep or anything like that, and like before we even get off the runway, they're reclining and I have limited space. And of course, I'm not going to recline back on the person behind me. And then of course, the stewardess has to come around and tell everyone to put their seats upright before we lift off. It's like, have you never flown before? You should know that. People who rush to the front of the plane the second it lands irks me to no end. Like, okay, you may not have a bag and you can get out, but it's supposed to be row by row. That's how we're supposed to get off the plane. So people who run up to the front and then stand there because they will inevitably get stuck, they just mess up the flow. People can't get out of their row because they're standing there and blocking the way. And you're not gonna get off the plane really that much faster. Usually only get like 2 or 3 rows above before you have to stop, before people start getting out and trying to get their bags and things. So just wait. Number 3, people who are sick, who hack the entire flight. People with like tuberculosis. Like if you are sick, then you probably shouldn't be flying, or I don't know, take something to help you with that. It's so annoying, and I always seem to get stuck with the person sitting right behind me that's hacking away, and they're not covering their mouth, and the germs are just floating all in the air because we're in this tight enclosed space, and it's just not a good look. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. One of the things that irks me the most about flying is having to listen to someone hack away while I'm flying the entire time. I fly a lot of times. I book my tickets at the last second, so I'll be in a seat all the way in the back of the plane. And another thing that really gets on my nerves is when they run out of meals by the time they get to me, because I'm all the way in the back. So let's say like there's no option by the time they get to me. I'm just stuck with whatever is left over, which usually is not the better option. And it seems like they should have enough for everyone, especially since everyone is paying so much to fly nowadays. There's just no excuse. Speaking of meals, planes that serve nothing, that nickel and dime you, that charge you for every little thing, for like a bottle of water, for like a light snack. What happened to the days when we used to get pretzels and peanuts and all those things? Like, those are so cheap. You could afford to give that to one person, each person on the flight. Don't you think? Another thing that I just don't understand why people do this is when they take their jackets off and they put it up in the bin. Their jackets, which are supposed to go under your seat, they decide that this is going to take up like a small bag, a shopping bag. They bought something in the airport, and they take that and they put that up there in the bin. You're only supposed to have one luggage in the bin and a second luggage that you can take on for free underneath your seat. I just don't understand the thinking behind that when people do that. It's like insane that you wouldn't be conscientious and think about the other people that are flying with you that need to store their bags up there. Speaking of that, then you have people who take your bins, because they run out of space or someone already has taken theirs, so then they have to take someone else's, and it's just a chain reaction. And then if you are one of those people who don't want to stand in line like for 40 minutes for boarding, by the time you get on, you're forced to check your luggage, or you have to take someone else's bin. Usually that's not an option. So it seems like they should really find a way to limit people to only use their one bin and under their seat. Now, this is a thing that airlines in Europe have figured out, and that is letting people board the plane back to front. Okay, you want to have first class board first, that's fine, but then after that, the plane should be filled back to front, because when you're going in the plane front to back, you're stuck waiting for all these people that are like putting their things up and taking forever. And when you have people who are getting to the back first, then it just flows better. It just makes more sense. Like, why don't we do that here in America? I don't understand. I'll never understand. And similarly, exiting from only the front in America. Again, in Europe, they figured out, open both exits, the front and the back, and allow people to get out both ways, and things move a lot faster. Why can't we figure this out in America? I don't know. So the other day I was on a flight and I was watching Goldfinch, or I was trying to watch Goldfinch, because every 2 seconds there was some announcement being made. They had to make it in the language, in Portuguese, and they had to make it in English, and it's just like really mundane things that we really didn't need to know. And every time they made the announcement, my movie stopped, so I couldn't like watch my movie because, oh, the seat lights are now turned off. I can see that. You know, we're experiencing turbulence. I can feel that. There's no need to stop my movie and my enjoyment of my movie to tell us that. Next on my list, seat changes. You know, when you're sitting and someone comes up to you and they're like, oh, I want to sit with the person that you're sitting next to. Do you mind switching with me? You know, and usually they have like the worst seat, like a middle seat or something. Even if they have a better seat, like a window seat, which they never do, it just feels like you can't really wait just 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever apart from the person you're going to be taking this trip with. Like, I think it's in bad form and in bad taste to ask someone to switch seats with you, especially when you have a bad seat. You know, it's just, you feel bad about saying no. I mean, I don't personally feel bad about saying no, but most people would feel bad about saying no. So I just think you shouldn't put people in that awkward position to have to tell you no, because you want to sit next to the person that you're taking the trip with, that you will be with for the rest of the trip. And then on the flip side of that, you know, if you have an empty row, let's say you're in the window seat and then you have 2 seats empty, no one who is not assigned to those seats should be coming, let's say they're in the middle seat, to come and sit on the aisle seat. Like, those seats are not assigned to you. And what if you want to lay out and spread out? You can't, because someone has decided they want to switch seats. So I think you shouldn't be able to do that at all. And that annoys me when anyone asks me, or if they don't ask and just try to come and take a seat that they see is empty to upgrade their seat that they should be sitting in. That's not cool. What do you think? Am I alone in that? There's a big argument about armrests. The school of thought is that if you are in the middle, that you get both of the armrests, because the person who's sitting at the window gets the window. That's great. And the person who's on the aisle gets to lean on the aisle. And if you're in the middle, you should get both. And even if you're willing to share and you're in the middle, you should stagger. It shouldn't be like a wrestling match, like they're trying to wrestle you off and push you off. They should be the one to adjust their arms and stagger. But I think really you should give the person in the middle both armrests, because they have the worst seat on the plane. And so it annoys me when people don't know that etiquette, that if you are not in the middle, you really shouldn't be taking up that person's armrests or encroaching on their very tight space. Everyone I know can agree with me on this one. Bad kids who cry and scream and kick a chair and talk incessantly. I know you can't discriminate against having kids, but I think I heard somewhere that there's going to be an airline that was just going to have flights for people with families and children. I think that is a great idea for those people who do not, because it could really make flying a nightmare when you have to listen to children screaming. And the children are, if they're babies especially, they're experiencing their ears popping. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. I think that you really shouldn't be flying with children until they're old enough to or they're well behaved enough to conduct themselves on a long flight. And then what about chatterboxes? People who talk the entire flight. I had this on the last flight that I was on. These guys behind me, they were speaking, luckily they were speaking in French or something. I couldn't really understand what they were saying, but they were talking the entire time. It was a 7-hour flight, and I don't know what you really have to talk about that much then. It just seems like you would want to rest and relax and chill. Watch the free movies that you get, the in-flight entertainment. You don't have to pay to watch those movies instead of talking and potentially annoying the people around you. And then last but not least, bathroom bombers. There are restrooms in the airport. You should use those for heavy duty things. You shouldn't save that until you get on the plane and then stink up the entire plane. I feel so bad for the people that have to sit in the back of the plane, since I usually have to sit in the back of the plane, and you smell these really, really, really bad smells. You can't get away from it. You're trapped. You're stuck. And you can't go and ask other people for their seat. I just said that's a no-no. So I think everyone should save the number 2, dropping the kids off at the pool, in the airport or before you leave your house, get to your flight, so that you can spare everyone of the plane the limited fresh air that we have. And there you have it. Those are my 15 top things that annoy me and irk me to no end about flying. It's the most annoying things about flying. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What's on your list that didn't make my list? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.